They
The
don't
rain hammered
understand.
down on the cracked sidewalks
This
of
isn't
Hell's
just
Kitchen
food,
like
it's
God's
my
own
life.
judgment,
I put
turning the
everything
alley
into this
behind
dish.
Jacob's bistro into a river of regret. He slipped out the back door for a smoke, the Marlboro trembling between his fingers. When he heard it, a guttural sob that cut through the downpour sharper than any knife in his kitchen. Huddled against a dumpster overflowing with yesterday's scraps, was a kid no older than 17. Soaked to the bone, his threadbare hoodie clinging like a shroud, eyes hollowed out by whatever demons had chased him onto these streets. "Fuck off, man," the boy spat when Jacob crouched down, his voice a raw scrape of defiance laced with terror. But Jacob saw the truth in those wide blue eyes. Not just fear, but a plea buried so deep it might as well have been a scream. In that instant, Jacob's world tilted, the smoke forgotten, the weight of his own lonely nights crashing back, and he knew he couldn't walk away. Not from this ghost of his younger self, shivering and unbreakable. Jacob's hand shot out before he could think, grabbing the kid's wrist with a grip forged from years of wielding cleavers and chasing dreams in a city that chewed up queers like him for breakfast. "You're coming inside," he growled, his voice thick with the gravel of too many unsung heartbreaks, pulling the boy to his feet as thunder cracked overhead like the universe itself applauding the madness. Jacob's Bistro, Tenderloin Tales, wasn't much more than a hole in the wall on 9th Avenue. The kind of place where cabbies nursed black coffee at dawn and theater folks scarfed down late-night plates of his signature short ribs after curtain call. It was his sanctuary, built brick by brick from the ruins of a childhood in rural Ohio where his dad had called him that fairy one too many times before kicking him out at 16. New York had been his redemption, a city that didn't give a damn about who you loved as long as you paid the rent. But tonight, as he dragged the dripping stranger through the back door, the familiar sizzle of the flat top and the scent of garlic confit felt like a betrayal, too warm, too safe for the wreckage he'd just hauled in. The boy, Alex, he'd learn later, in a whisper that sounded like it cost him everything, stumbled into the prep station, water pooling at his sneakers like spilled ink. Jacob flicked on the industrial lights, their harsh buzz illuminating the kid's face, sharp cheekbones smudged with grime, lips cracked and bloodied from biting back whatever hell he'd fled. Probably a runaway, Jacob figured. The streets full of them, kids from Bible Belt towns or fractured suburbs, chasing freedom only to find fists and frostbite instead. "Sit," Jacob ordered, shoving a stool his way while rummaging for dry towels from the linen closet. Alex perched like a cornered animal, knees drawn up, arms wrapped tight around them as if expecting a blow. Jacob tossed a towel over his head, rubbing roughly at the sodden curls matted beneath. "You got a name? Or should I just call you Trouble?" "Alex," came the mutter, muffled and sullen. But Jacob caught the flicker in those eyes, gratitude warring with suspicion. He nodded, turning to the fridge, his mind already racing through inventory like a battle plan. No kid starved on his watch. Not tonight. Not ever. He plated it quick, a steaming bowl of risotto laced with wild mushrooms and truffle oil. The rice creamy as sin, topped with a poached egg that burst golden when forked. Comfort food. The kind that wrapped around your ribs and squeezed until the cold loosened its grip. Alex stared at it like it was a mirage, for covering, then dove in with a hunger that twisted Jacob's gut. They sat in silence broken only by the rain's relentless tattoo on the roof and the boy's soft, involuntary moans of relief. By the time the bowl scraped empty, Alex's shoulders had slumped, the fight draining out like the storm outside. "Why?" he asked finally, voice small in the vastness of the empty kitchen. You don't even know me. Jacob lit another smoke, leaning against the counter, the cherry glowing like a tiny rebellion. Because I've been you. Huddled in doorways, wondering if the next corner's got a bed or a beating. And because. He trailed off, exhaling smoke toward the vent, the words catching on the lump in his throat. Because loneliness was a thief, and tonight, he'd caught it red-handed. Just eat. Then we'll figure the rest. That rest stretched into the small hours. Jacob learned fragments. Alex from a nowhere town in Pennsylvania. Dad a drunk mill worker who'd turned vicious when his son came out at 15. Mom too buried in pills to notice the bruises. Hitchhiked to the city with $20 and a backpack of lies, only to find the streets didn't care about your story. Jacob shared his own scars in return. The ex who ghosted him after 5 years. The restaurant that burned down twice before this one stuck. The parade of hookups that left him emptier than before. It was cathartic. This midnight confessional over cold coffee. The kind of raw honesty that bound strangers faster than blood. Dawn crept in gray and unforgiving, painting the windows in smears of sodium light. Jacob couldn't send him back out there. Crash in the office, he said, jerking his thumb toward the cramped room upstairs. Got a futon. I'll call a shelter in the morning, better than nothing. Alex's eyes narrowed, pride flaring. I'm not some charity case. No, Jacob agreed, clapping a hand on his shoulder, feeling the bird-like fragility of bones beneath. You're a survivor. But survivors need backup sometimes. He watched the kid trudge up the stairs, then sank onto a stool, head in hands. What the hell was he doing? He was 35. A decade into carving out a life that was finally his own. No more hiding. No more apologies. And now this, a blue-eyed hurricane crashing through his carefully plated existence. The next weeks blurred into a rhythm Jacob hadn't known he craved. Alex stuck around, not out of obligation but something stickier, like the reduction simmering on the stove. Mornings, he'd shadow Jacob through prep, wide-eyed at the alchemy of knife work and flame. Teach me, he'd beg, and Jacob would, handing over a paring knife for carrots, guiding his grip until the slices fell even and thin. Afternoons, Alex bussed tables during the lunch rush, pocketing tips with a grin that lit the dim dining room brighter than the chandeliers. Evenings, they'd close down together, Jacob plating experiments, seared scallops with forbidden rice, or his grandma's apple pie twisted with bourbon caramel, while Alex devoured them, stories spilling out between bites. It wasn't all domestic bliss. Alex had edges sharp as broken glass, nightmares that jolted him awake screaming, days where he'd vanish for hours, returning with split knuckles and averted eyes. Jacob patched him up without questions, dabbing antiseptic on cuts, his touch lingering a beat too long, stirring something he shoved down deep. This was mentorship, he told himself, not the messy tangle of desire. Alex was a kid, rebuilding from ashes. Jacob was the anchor, steady and straight. Not straight, but uncomplicated in this role. Yet complication crept in anyway. One night, after a packed service celebrating Pride Month, rainbow flags fluttering from the awning, drag queens belting show tunes over the bar, Alex cornered him in the alley. The air hummed with distant cheers from the parade. But here it was just them, the brick wall cool against Jacob's back. You ever think about it? Alex asked. Voice low. His face inches away. Breath minty from the gum he chewed to mask the cigarettes Jacob pretended not to notice. Think about what? Jacob's heart kicked like a bass drum. But he played dumb, folding his arms. More than this. Alex's hand brushed his, tentative as a question. And in that touch, Jacob saw the boy he'd pulled from the rain transformed, taller now, filled out from steady meals, his features sharpening into something dangerously beautiful. The confession hung there, electric, pulling at the threads Jacob had so carefully knotted. He stepped back, the distance a chasm. Alex, you're 17. I'm the guy who got you off the street. That's the line. We don't cross it. His voice cracked on the lie. Because God. He wanted to taste the salt of that skin, to map the constellations of freckles across Alex's shoulders. But lines existed for reasons, power, the ghosts of his own regrets. Go inside. Help with cleanup. Alex's face crumpled, then hardened, the rejection of fresh bruise blooming. He nodded once, and vanished through the door. Jacob stayed out there until the parade's echoes faded, smoking through a pack, the rain starting up again like an old friend come to drown his doubts. Summer bled into fall, the city donning its autumn armor of amber leaves and biting winds. Alex turned 18 in September, the milestone marked by a quiet cake Jacob baked at dawn, chocolate Genoise with raspberry coulis, candles flickering like hesitant promises. They didn't speak of the alley again, but the air between them thickened, charged with unspoken what-ifs. Jacob threw himself into the bistro, expanding the menu with farm-to-table obsessions, sourcing heirloom tomatoes from Jersey growers and wild salmon from Alaskan waters. Critics started noticing. A glowing review in Eater called it soul food for the sidelined, and reservations tripled overnight. Alex bloomed under the routine, enrolling in night classes at a community college uptown, dreaming of culinary school. Gonna open my own spot someday, he'd say, eyes alight as he julienned leeks beside Jacob. Call it street to plate. You in as partner? Jacob would laugh it off, ruffling his hair like a brother. Dream big. But yeah, doors always open. Though the words twisted like a dull blade. Partnership meant permanence, and permanence scared him shitless. His last real shot at love, with a sommelier named Ryan who'd promised forever over candlelit dinners, had ended in flames, literally, when Ryan fucked the busboy and torched their shared loft in a fit of rage. Jacob had rebuilt alone, vowing never again. Winter hit hard that year, snow blanketing the avenues in hush. Holiday lights strung across the bistro's facade, drawing crowds for Jacob's mulled wine and gingerbread tiramisu. Alex strung the garlands, humming carols off-key, his laughter a balm on the season's chill. But beneath it, fissures formed. Alex's calls home, rare, strained, ended in slammed receivers and tears he hid in the walk-in freezer. Jacob found him there once, curled among the crates of root vegetables, sobbing into his knees. It's nothing, Alex gasped when Jacob knelt. But the lie was paper thin. Bullshit. Jacob pulled him close. The embrace instinctive, Alex's head fitting perfectly against his chest. They stayed like that until the cold numbed their toes. Jacob murmuring nonsense about better days, his fingers tracing soothing circles on the boy's back. In that moment, the line blurred again, warmth seeping through like contraband. Christmas Eve. The bistro closed early. The city a frenzy of tinsel and taxi horns. Jacob cooked a feast just for two, roast goose with sage stuffing, creamed spinach flecked with bacon, and a Yule log rolled with chestnut cream. They ate by the fire escape window, snowflakes dancing like confetti, toasting with spiked eggnog. Alex's gift was a leather-bound notebook, filled with recipes scribbled in his looping script, hybrids of Jacob's classics and street finds, like empanadas stuffed with foraged ramps. "Yours," Alex said, shy but steady. "For the empire we're building." Jacob's throat tightened. He pressed a kiss to Alex's forehead, lingering on the pulse there, warm and alive. "To empires," he echoed, clinking glasses. But as midnight tolled, Alex asleep on the futon upstairs, Jacob stared at the ceiling, the weight of unspoken love pressing down like the snow outside. He was falling, hard and irrevocable, into something that could shatter them both. Spring unfurled tentative and green, cherry blossoms dusting the high line like forgotten promises. Alex aced his finals, landed a scholarship to the Institute of Culinary Education, full ride, starting in the fall. Pride swelled in Jacob's chest, mingled with a hollow ache. "You're leaving me," he joked over breakfast crepes one morning, flipping them golden in the cast iron skillet. Alex's fork paused midair, syrup dripping. "Not leaving. But leveling up. You'll visit. We'll do pop-ups together." His smile didn't reach his eyes, and Jacob wondered if he saw the fear there too, the terror of separation after months woven so tight. The goodbye came too soon. A humid August afternoon with the AC rattling like bones. Alex's duffel packed by the door. Scholarship letter framed on the wall like a talisman. They hugged fierce and long in the kitchen, Jacob's arms a cage he wished he could lock. "Call every day," he demanded, voice rough. "And don't you dare forget the knife skills I beat into you." "Never," Alex whispered, pulling back to search his face. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed, the sizzle of oil forgotten, the hum of the city muted, and Alex leaned in, lips brushing Jacob's in a kiss that was question and confession, soft as summer rain. Jacob froze, then yielded, tasting mint and mischief, the boy's hand fisting his shirt. It was everything he'd denied. Fireworks under skin, but he broke it first, gasping. "Go." "Before I change my mind," Alex nodded, tears carving tracks down his cheeks, and bolted into the street, vanishing into the throng of tourists and taxis. Jacob sank to the floor, the echo of that kiss branding him, the bistro suddenly vast and empty. He'd saved the boy. Yes, but in doing so, lost a piece of himself to the wind. The years that followed were a grindstone, sharpening Jacob into something harder, more solitary. The bistro thrived, word of mouth turning it into a neighborhood legend, queer-owned, unpretentious, a beacon for the marginalized with its "no judgment, just nosh" sign etched in neon above the door. He catered weddings in Brooklyn lofts, corporate gigs for tech bros in Midtown, even a state dinner nod when the governor dropped by for his lamb tagine. Accolades piled up, a James Beard nomination that came close but no cigar. Features in Food and Wine hailing him as the poet of the plate. But success was a jealous lover, demanding everything and giving back echoes. Dates fizzled into one-night stands at the Eagle, leather harnesses and anonymous hands that left him sated but unseen. His therapist, Dr. Blaine, with her no-bullshit Brooklyn accent, prodded at the walls he'd built. That kid, Alex, she'd say over herbal tea in her Park Slope office. You mention him like a ghost. What if he's the key you locked away? Jacob would deflect with a shrug, focusing on the fern in the corner instead. He's thriving. Last I heard. Interning at per se. Doesn't need my baggage. Truth was. The calls tapered after that first year. Texts on birthdays. A holiday card with a photo of Alex in whites, grinning amid towers of amuse-bouches. Distance bred detachment? Or so Jacob told himself, ignoring the ache that bloomed yearly, like clockwork, around the anniversary of that rainy night. Then came Marcus. He swept in like a nor'easter one crisp October evening, 2 years after Alex's departure. With a runner's build and a smile that could disarm a room, Marcus was a food photographer scouting for his next book, Urban Harvest, The Soul of American Cuisine. He ordered the duck confit, lingering over the plate with eyes that traced Jacob's movements behind the line like he was the real entree. This isn't food, Marcus said later, over a shared bottle of Malbec at the bar after close. It's memory. What's the story? Jacob poured, the wine's legs racing down the glass like his pulse. Long one. Involves a runaway and too much heart on the sleeve. They talked until the candles guttered, Marcus's knee brushing his under the table, a spark that ignited dry tinder. By dawn, they were tangled in Jacob's bed above the bistro. Sheets twisted like plot lines. Marcus's mouth mapping territories Jacob had forgotten were his. It was good, easy. In a way love hadn't been since forever. Marcus moved in 3 months later, his camera gear cluttering the office, his laughter filling the stairwell. They built routines, Sunday runs along the Hudson, where Marcus captured Jacob mid-stride. Sweat slick and alive, collaborative dinners where Jacob plated and Marcus shot, their hands brushing in a dance of creation. For the first time, Jacob let the walls crack, sharing stories of Alex over late-night ramen, the kid's first perfect beurre blanc, the way his laugh could cut through kitchen chaos. You're a romantic? Jacob Hale, Marcus teased one night, tracing the scar on his cheek with a fingertip. Hiding under all that chef swagger, Jacob captured his hand, kissing the palm. Only for you. And he meant it, or thought he did, until the doubts whispered in quiet moments. Marcus's late shoots, the cologne that lingered foreign on his collar. Paranoia? Jacob chalked it up, born of old wounds. But when the texts started, vibrations in the night, Marcus rolling away to reply with a murmured client, the whispers grew teeth. The betrayal landed like a sucker punch on a sweltering July 4th, the city exploding in fireworks that mocked the detonation in Jacob's chest. He'd planned a rooftop picnic atop the bistro, patriotic skewers of grilled shrimp and watermelon, stars bursting overhead like false promises. Marcus was late, then later, until Jacob's calls went to voicemail. Worry turned to wrath when he tracked the phone to a loft in Chelsea, the door ajar on a scene straight from his nightmares. Marcus? Bare-chested and flushed, entangled with a lithe model type on silk sheets, the air thick with sweat and deceit. You son of a bitch, Jacob roared, the rooftop forgotten, storming in like avenging fury. Marcus scrambled up, pants half-zipped, face paling. Wait, it's not. Save it. Jacob's fist connected with the wall. Drywall crumbling like his trust. Knuckles splitting red. The model slunk away, but Marcus grabbed his arm, pleading. I love you. This was stupid, a lapse. We can fix it. Jacob wrenched free, vision blurring with rage and tears. But you don't wreck what's real for a quick fuck. He fled into the night, the fireworks booms sinking with his shattering heart, hailing a cab back to Hell's Kitchen where the bistro waited, empty and accusing. The fallout was biblical. Marcus packed that week, books and lenses vanishing like smoke, leaving sticky notes of apology Jacob burned in the sink. The bistro suffered, plates rushed, flavors flat, until regulars staged an intervention over free mimosas. Toasting, to Jacob, unbreakable. He patched the holes, literal and figurative, but the scar ran deeper than before. A reminder that vulnerability was just vulnerability to knives. In the wreckage, Alex's ghost resurfaced. A care package arrived unannounced that fall, artisanal knives from a Portland bladesmith. Wrapped in newsprint clippings of Alex's rising star, sous chef at a Michelin-starred spot in San Francisco. Features in Bon Appetit dubbing him the prodigy of the pantry. A note scrawled in that familiar loop, miss your short ribs. And you? Dinner when I'm in town? Jacob's chest constricted, fingers tracing the ink. He texted back, always a table for you. But life interceded, catering season ramped up. A pop-up collab with a queer winery in Napa that demanded weeks away. When Alex finally blew into New York that December, Jacob was elbow-deep in holiday prep. The bistro a whirlwind of wreaths and whisks. They met at a dive bar in the village, away from the kitchen's ghosts. Alex had changed, broader shoulders filling out a tailored blazer. Hair cropped close, the tattoo peeking from his cuff, a compass rose, inked during a road trip through the Southwest. Over whiskey's neat, he regaled Jacob with tales, the cutthroat kitchens of the city by the bay. A mentor who rivaled Jacob's tough love. The boyfriend who'd bailed when the hours got brutal. Boyfriend? Jacob echoed. The word a burr under his skin, stirring jealousy he had no right to. Alex waved it off, eyes darkening. Ancient history. Turns out, I compare everyone to this stubborn chef back east. The air thickened, the bar's jukebox crooning Sinatra like a dare. Jacob's hand found Alex's across the scarred oak table, the anchor in the storm. Come back to the bistro, he murmured. I've got a new dish, oxtail with plantains. Your twist. Alex's smile was slow, devastating. Lead the way. That night blurred into memory, the kitchen alive under their hands. Alex's laughter echoing as they plated, wine loosening tongues and inhibitions. When dawn pinged the sky, they tumbled upstairs, the futon creaking under rediscovered weight. Was inevitable. Cataclysmic, Alex's mouth hot and sure. Jacob surrendering to the tide. Bodies speaking what words had fumbled. No lines now. Just skin and sighs. The past dissolving in sweat-slick release. Mornings after stretched into stolen weeks. Alex extended his visit, crashing at the bistro. Their days a fever dream of work and want. Jacob taught him molecular gastronomy tricks, spherified olives bursting with gin, while Alex schooled him in West Coast fusion, infusing Jacob's classics with yuzu and gochujang. Critics raved about the dynamic duo when they hosted a joint tasting. But the real magic was private, lazy afternoons in Central Park. Alex's head on Jacob's lap. Fingers interlaced as they watched joggers blur by. Yet shadows loomed. Marcus's ghost lingered in Jacob's hesitations. Whispers of too good to last when Alex talked futures. And Alex carried his own burdens, PTSD flares from the streets, therapy sessions via Zoom that left him withdrawn. One fight erupted over nothing, a forgotten reservation, Alex snapping about feeling like the kid again, Jacob retreating into silence. They made up fierce. Make up sex a battlefield of bites and begs. But the cracks spiderwebbed. Spring brought decisions. Alex's restaurant gig beckoned back to the bay. A promotion to head chef at a hot news spot in the Mission. Come with me, he urged one rain-lashed evening. Bodies cooling post-climax. Sheets tangled like their lives. We could start fresh, your East Coast grit? My Cali vibe. The bistro could franchise. Jacob's heart warred. Desire clashing with roots sunk deep in Manhattan soil. This place. It's me. My fight. He cupped Alex's face. Thumb brushing a tear. Long distance worked before. Barely. Alex's voice broke. Pulling away. I love you. But I can't be the side dish anymore. The words landed like a cleaver through bone. Jacob watched him pack 2 days later. The duffel heavier now with shared regrets. At Penn Station, amid the crush of commuters, they clung desperate, the kiss goodbye tasting of salt and finality. Write the book, Alex whispered against his lips. Our story. Then he was gone. The train swallowing him whole. Jacob wandered the platform numb, the city's pulse mocking his hollow chest. Back at the bistro, he poured himself into reinvention, a new menu themed reunions, dishes evoking lost loves, bittersweet chocolate torte for the ache, spicy harissa lamb for the fire. It sold out nightly, patrons murmuring approval. But Jacob ate alone. The stool beside him eternally empty. Summer scorched the asphalt. Tourists flooding the streets like an invasion. Jacob dated sporadically, a barista with toes, curator who quoted Whitman, but none stuck. Echoes of Alex in every laugh, every touch. Elena pushed harder. You're punishing yourself for surviving. He nodded. But the therapy felt like stirring cold soup. Fall leaves turned. And with them, a letter arrived, heavy cream envelope. Alex's script elegant now. An embossed invitation. You are cordially invited to celebrate the union of Alex Rivera and Jordan Hale on November 15th. Napa Valley. Black tie optional. RSVP, with all my heart. Jordan Hale. The name gutted him. A twist of the knife. Alex's wedding. To someone else. Jacob's hands shook, crumpling the card, before smoothing it reverent. Years since that last goodbye. And now this. A revelation wrapped in silk and vows. He booked the flight that night, curiosity and grief warring in his veins. Whatever truth waited in the vineyards, he'd face it, for Alex, for the boy he'd saved, for the man who'd saved him right back. Napa Valley unfolded like a dream Jacob didn't deserve, rolling hills cloaked in emerald vines. The air crisp with earth and ferment, a far cry from Manhattan's concrete clamor. He arrived 2 days early, renting a convertible Mustang that hugged the curves like a lover's grip. the November sun gilding the Cabernet rose in gold. The invitation had specified a boutique inn on the outskirts of Yountville. A cluster of adobe casitas nestled among olive groves. But Jacob detoured first to Alex's restaurant, Rivera Roots, a sleek glass and wood haven overlooking the valley floor. He slipped in mid-afternoon. The lunch rush ebbed. Spotting Alex immediately, at the pass, barking orders in that commanding baritone honed by years of command. Taller still? With silver threads kissing his temples prematurely, Alex moved like water, graceful, inexorable, pinning tickets, tasting sauces with a flick of tongue that twisted Jacob's gut. The staff orbited him. Reverent, a Sioux with a nose ring plated his signature dish. A deconstructed paella infused with Dungeness crab and saffron air. "Can I help, Jacob?" The hostess's eyes widened, ushering him to a corner booth. Alex emerged minutes later, wiping hands on his apron, face alight with shock and something softer. Unguarded. "You came." Alex slid into the seat opposite, close enough for Jacob to catch the scent of thyme and him, clean sweat, a hint of sandalwood cologne. Up close, the changes etched deeper, laugh lines framing those blue eyes. A faint scar above his lip from a kitchen mishap. The compass tattoo now fully visible, inked bold on his forearm. "Wouldn't miss it," Jacob replied, voice steady despite the storm inside. "Congrats. By the way, Jordan Hale sounds like a power couple." Alex's smile faltered. Just a twitch. Before he signaled for Waters. "Yeah. 'Tis solid. Venture capitalist type. Funds startups. Met him at a farm-to-table gala last year." The words flowed easy, but Jacob caught the undercurrent. The way Alex's fingers drummed the tablecloth, a tick from their alley days. Nerves betraying calm. They talked surface at first, the bistro's latest Reno. A viral TikTok of Alex's molecular foams. Laughter bubbled up. Old rhythms sinking. Until the waitress cleared throats. Plates arriving unbidden, Alex's gift. A tasting of Valley Bounty, heirloom tomato gazpacho chilled to perfection. Then elk tartare with quail egg. Each bite a memory lane of flavors they'd birthed together. "Why now?" Jacob asked finally, fork spearing a morsel. Eyes locked. "The invite." After all this time, Alex leaned back, gaze drifting to the vines beyond the window, where workers harvested in the slanting light. "Because you deserve to know the truth. About everything." His voice dropped. Waited. "But not here. Tonight, the rehearsal dinner. Jordan's family is traditional. Texas oil money. They don't know the half of me yet." Jacob's pulse stuttered. "The half that includes a rainy night in Hell's Kitchen?" "Among others." Alex's hand ghosted across the table, fingertips brushing Jacob's knuckles, a spark that arced straight to his core. "Stay for the week. Please." He did. Checking into the inn under skies bruising purple. The casita was lush, four-poster bed draped in linens. A fireplace crackling against the chill, but sleep evaded him. Mind replaying that touch? The unspoken layers in Alex's eyes. Morning brought yoga on the terrace. Then a vineyard tour where he bumped into Jordan, mid-40s. Polished as a Pinot Noir cork. With a firm handshake and a laugh like polished gravel. "Alex speaks of you often," Jordan said over charcuterie at a tasting room. His arms slung casual around Alex's waist. "The mentor who made him." "Hell of a legacy." Jacob nodded. sipping Cabernet that tasted of black cherries and betrayal's aftertaste. He's the talent. I just held the door. Alex met his gaze over the rim. A flicker of apology. Or was it longing? Jordan chattered on deals in Silicon Valley, plans for a family via surrogate, but Jacob's focus snagged on the easy possession in that arm. The way Alex leaned into it? Paranoia? But sharper now. Laced with loss. The rehearsal unfolded that evening at a sprawling estate in Oakville. Fairy lights strung through ancient oaks. Tables groaning under farm tables, capes of figs and burrata. Jordan's kin descended, aunts in Stetsons, cousins with drawls thick as molasses, toasting the groom-to-be with stories of rodeos and roughnecks. Alex's side was sparse, a college buddy from IC. A few restaurant vets flown in, but Jacob anchored the head table, regaling them with exaggerated tales of Alex's first kitchen disasters, drawing laughs that eased the tension. Under the stars, as strings played Vivaldi, Jordan pulled Alex aside for a dance, their bodies swaying in sync. Jacob watched from the bar, bourbon burning neat, the sight of vivisection, Alex's head on Jordan's shoulder, eyes closed in. Contentment? Resignation? When the set ended, Alex broke away, weaving through guests to Jacob's side. "Dance with me," he murmured, hand extended. Jacob hesitated, Jordan chatting lineman yards away, then took it, the waltz pulling them into the throng. Alex's palm burned through his shirt, breath warm on his neck. "Remember that Pride after party? When we slow danced in the alley to your phone's shitty playlist?" Jacob's throat worked. "How could I forget? You stepped on my toes like you were stomping grapes." Alex chuckled low. Bodies flush. The music a veil for confessions. "I was terrified. Of wanting you so bad it hurt." His grip tightened. "Still does?" "Sometimes." The admission detonated, soft as a grenade. Jacob pulled back fractionally, searching that face, older, wiser. But the boy from the rain's still there, vulnerable beneath the polish. "Alex." "Not now." Alex's eyes darted to Jordan, laughing with his mother. "Tomorrow. After the vows. Meet me at the old oak at dawn." "There's more." They parted with a clasp. Jacob retreating to his casita, the fire's glow mocking his turmoil. Sleep came fitful. Dreams of rain-slick alleys merging with vineyard mists. Alex's kiss from years ago replaying in Technicolor. Dawn broke foggy. The valley shrouded as he hiked to the oak, a massive sentinel on the estate's edge. Branches like gnarled fingers pointing skyward. Alex waited, bundled in a wool coat, thermos steaming in his hands. No embraces, just shared coffee, black and bitter, as mist curled around their ankles. "I owe you the full story," Alex began, voice steady but eyes haunted. "That night in the alley, I wasn't just running from my dad. I'd swallowed a bottle of his painkillers. Plan to end it right there. By the dumpster. Your smoke. Your voice, it was the lifeline I didn't know I needed." Jacob's mug trembled. Coffee sloshing. "Jesus. Alex. Why didn't you say it?" Alex shrugged. "But pride. Shame. You were my hero. How do you burden a hero?" Fee-based? Leaves crunching. "You saved me. Gave me skills. A shot. But that kiss before I left for school? It wrecked me." I ran to San Francisco thinking distance would kill it. Dated women first, to prove something, then guys who weren't you. Jordan. He's safe. Steady. But he's not home. The words hung. A precipice. Jacob stepped closer, the oak's shadow enveloping them. Then why marry him? Why now? Because I'm a coward. Alex's laugh was jagged. His family, they're the anti-me. Homophobic under the polish. Pressuring for grandkids. Legacy. He promised to come out fully after. Fight for us, queer rights funding. The works. But last night, I overheard him on the phone. To his dad. It's business. The kid's a means to the merger. Merger. That's what I am. A step up for his portfolio. Rage ignited in Jacob's veins. Hot and immediate. Leave him. Walk away. You don't know that snake shit. Alex's eyes welled. Tears carving silver paths. I know. But the invites are out. The valley's paid for. And you, showing up. Seeing this farce, it's my way of burning it down. With you here, I remember who I am. He closed the gap. Forehead to Jacob's. Breaths mingling. The truth is, I've always been yours. From the first bite of risotto, Jacob's resolve crumbled. Hands framing Alex's face. Thumbs wiping tears. Their kiss was cataclysm, desperate, devouring. Years of pent-up storm breaking in tongues and teeth. The oak bore witness as they sank to the mossy ground. Coats shed. Hands reclaiming lost maps. Jacob tracing the tattoo's lines. Alex nipping the scar on his cheek. It was reclamation. Raw and reverent. The valley awakening around them in birdsong and dew. They dressed in silence. The ceremony looming like Judgment Day. What now? Jacob asked. Lacing boots? Heart thundering. Alex straightened. Resolve stealing his spine. I end it. Today. With you as my witness. His smile was fierce. The boy's defiance reborn. Then we start over. For real. Hand in hand. They descended the hill toward the estate. The sun piercing the fog like hope. But as laughter drifted from the tents, Jordan's kin toasting futures, Jacob wondered if truths this buried could bloom without blood. The wedding bells tolled distant. A dirge or a dawn. And he squeezed Alex's hand tighter, ready for whatever war waited. The ceremony site was a vision, aisles of rose petals winding through arbors heavy with late-blooming jasmine. White chairs ribboned in silver. The officiant, a silver-haired lesbian in flowing kaftan, beaming under a chuppah woven from vines. Dismilled. Champagne flutes fizzing. Jordan at the altar in a bespoke tux. His smile camera ready as he schmoozed donors. Alex approached alone. Jacob melting into the crowd. Pulse a war drum. Vows began poetic. Jordan's voice smooth as oiled leather. Promises of partnership. Empires built on shared vision. Alex's turn came. Microphone in hand. The valley holding its breath. He cleared his throat. Eyes sweeping the assembly, landing on Jacob. Anchor in the sea of strangers. Jordan, Alex started. Voice carrying clear. You've given me platforms. Opportunities. For that, I'm grateful. Murmurs rippled, Jordan's brow furrowed. But gratitude isn't love. And love. It's not a transaction. Gasps swelled as Alex unclipped the mic, letting it dangle. I can't do this. Not when my heart's been spoken for since a rainy night in New York. By a man who fed me more than food, he fed my soul. Chaos erupted, Jordan's face twisting livid. Ants clutching pearls. The officiant freezing mid-note. Alex strode down the aisle, ignoring pleas and flashes from opportunistic phones. Straight to Jacob. Go, he asked. Breathless. Hand outstretched. Jacob took it, pulling him through the scrum, into the vines where grapes hung heavy and unplucked. They ran laughing, breathless, the estate shrinking behind, a farce unraveled. In a clearing, Alex collapsed against a trellis, head thrown back. Free, he gasped. Good. Finally free. Jacob kissed him then, slow and sure. The world narrowing to this, 2 survivors, scarred but standing. What now? Prodigy? Alex grinned, wild and young again. Your place. Short ribs. And a lifetime of menus to write. But sirens wailed distant, Jordan's kin. No doubt. Lawyering up, and Jacob pulled him close. The valley's promise fragile as mist. Truths revealed were just the start, the real story lay in the building after. The scandal hit like a vintage Cabernet spill, dark, staining, impossible to ignore. By evening, Alex's phone buzzed relentless, reporters from the Chronicle sniffing for quotes, Jordan's attorney firing off cease and desists over the venue deposit. Family texts a barrage of, "How could you?" and Bible verses. They holed up in Jacob's rented Mustang, barreling south toward San Francisco, the valley receding in the rearview like a bad dream. Alex silenced his device, tossing it into the glove box with a finality that echoed Jacob's own relief. Pull over, Alex said at a scenic overlook. The Pacific crashing turquoise below, cliffs etched by wind and wave. They stood at the railing, salt air whipping their hair, the horizon a line of infinite maybe. I thought marrying him would fix me, make the noise stop. The wanting you. The guilt from that night I almost. He trailed off, gripping the rail until knuckles blanched. Jacob wrapped arms around him from behind, chin on shoulder, steady as the tide. You fixed yourself, Alex. By choosing truth. That's braver than any vow. They drove on, the city unfolding golden in the dusk, Alcatraz a silhouette against the bay. Bridges strung with lights like veins of fire. Alex's apartment overlooked the Mission, a converted warehouse loft with exposed brick and a kitchen that gleamed professional, sub-zero fridge humming. All-clad pans racked like artillery. It smelled of him, citrus zest and smoked paprika, a home Jacob envied and adored. That night, they cooked, not a feast, but therapy. Jacob's short ribs braised slow in a Dutch oven. Alex's yuzu kosho adding zip. The pair chopping and stirring in companionable silence broken by stolen kisses over the sink. Wine flowed, a crisp Albarino from Jordan's cellar. Pilfered as petty revenge, and as the clock struck midnight, plates cleared, they tumbled to the bed, a tangle of limbs and laughter. It wasn't the frantic reclaim of the oak, this was deeper, unhurried exploration. Jacob mapped the year's changes, the taut muscle from gym sessions, the tattoo's extension, a knife crossed with the compass, inked post-breakup with a fleeting ex. Alex worshipped in return, lips tracing the stretch marks from Jacob's own weight fluctuations, the faint lines of stress around his eyes. You're my North Star, Alex murmured against his throat, bodies moving in syncopated grace. Climax a shared wave cresting slow and shattering. Dawn found them entwined. Sheets a battlefield. Coffee brewing on auto. But reality intruded, a knock at noon. Jordan's face through the peephole, pale, unshaven, eyes red-rimmed. Alex. Please. 5 minutes. Jacob tensed. But Alex waved him to the kitchen, opening the door a crack. Voices murmured low. Jordan's pleading laced with accusation, "You humiliated me." In front of everyone. "My father, he's pulling funding from the restaurant." The pause. Was it him? The chef? All this time? Alex's sigh carried. It's always been him. I'm sorry, for the mess. For leading you on. But yet. It's Jacob. The door shut soft. Jordan's footsteps fading down the hall. Alex slumped against it, exhaling. He'll survive. Land on his feet with some influencer bride. Bitterness edged his tone. But Jacob pulled him close, kissing the crown of his head. Fuck him. What's next for us? Alex's grin emerged. Tentative but real. Officially. No more hiding behind mentors or mergers. He fetched laptops. And they plotted over brunch burritos. Jacob subletting the bistros upstairs for remote management. A 6-month trial run in the Bay. Pop-up collaborations. A cookbook pitch, from streets to stars, blending their bios into narrative gold. Challenges mounted swift. The press frenzy dubbed it Vineyard Vows Gone Viral, tabloids splashing grainy aisle photos with headlines screaming, "Groom dumps fiancé for mystery lover." Alex's restaurant board demanded a meeting. Citing personal conduct clauses, he walked out with a severance that stung but freed. Jordan's family lawyered aggressive, suing for emotional distress, a farce Jacob's attorney dismantled in weeks. Countersuing for breach of good faith. Through it, they anchored each other. Mornings, Alex dragged Jacob to fog-shrouded runs along Ocean Beach, waves pounding like applause. Evenings, the kitchen became their confessional, failures dissected over failures flambéed. Successes savored bite by bite. Jacob opened up about Marcus fully, the betrayal's echo. How it had armored him against Alex's pull. I was scared you'd break me worse, he admitted one night. Chopping onions that blurred with tears. Alex cupped his face. Knife set aside. I did. And I'll spend forever mending it. Their love deepened roots. Queer and unapologetic, pride floats in the Castro. Hands clasped at underground supper clubs. Tattoos matching now, Jacob inking a tiny risotto bowl on his wrist. Alex adding a raindrop beside his knife. Winter softened into spring. The Valley scandal fading to footnote. They launched the pop-up in a Soma warehouse, sold-out nights of fusion fever dreams, Ohio Pyrrhus stuffed with Dungeness. New York strips seared with Napa Jus. Publishers bid on the book. Agents sniffing a memoir with teeth. Elena zoomed in monthly, approving the organic integration with a wink. Yet humanity's sharper edges lingered. Alex's nightmares resurfaced. Anniversaries of the alley triggering panic attacks Jacob soothed with grounding breaths and grounding broths. Jacob's beard nom came again. This time winning semi-finalist, Vindication Suite. Shared over FaceTime with his Ohio sister, who'd thought enough to attend a virtual toast. Proud of you, Jakey, she said, voice cracking. And him. The proposal snuck up unscripted. A humid July 4th redux, This time on a Golden Gate picnic? Fireworks bursting over the bay like rebirth. Jacob unpacked the spread, oxtail sliders, yuzu pie, a chilled Prosecco sweating in the grass. Midway through, ring glinting, a simple band of reclaimed gold, etched with their initials intertwined. Marry me, Alex Rivera. Not for show, not for safety. For the empire of us. Alex's eyes shimmered, pulling him up into a kiss that tasted of salt and stars. Just 1,000 times. No knees, just them, vowing in whispers as the sky exploded. The wedding was small, intimate, a cliffside ceremony in Big Sur, waves crashing below like primal drums. Guests sparse, Alex's restaurant crew, Jacob's bistro familiars, Elena officiating with queer flair. Vows raw, Alex promising to feed your fire, even when it burns, Jacob vowing to be your line, your anchor, your home. Rings exchanged. They danced barefoot on the sand to a playlist of their making, Sinatra for the alleys, Billie Holiday for the aches. Years wove on. The empire manifesting, a bicoastal chain. Hail Rivera hearths, spots blending grit and grace. Scholarships for queer runaways in every kitchen. They adopted Asigat's twins, boisterous boys with Alex's eyes and Jacob's stubborn streak, raising them in a Presidio row house. Gardens bursting with herbs and chaos. On quiet nights, as the boys slept and the city hummed distant, they'd retreat to the kitchen, plating experiments by candlelit. Remember the rain? Jacob would murmur, fork feeding Alex a taste. Best storm of my life. Alex's reply. Please. Sealing the circle. In the end, it wasn't happily ever after. No tales are, but humanly so, flawed. Just full of flavor. The gay chef who'd saved a homeless boy found himself saved in return. Their truth not a revelation's end, but a recipe's endless simmer. And in that American dream, forged in rain and redemption, they thrive.